If you're just starting out with film photography and you've just bought a new film camera and you're wondering what lens should you buy first, well, this is my suggestion. My name is Rob Skeoch. I've been a career professional photographer. I've shot years for the NFL, I shot for Major League Baseball, I shot tons and tons of hockey up in Canada, and I also worked for 14 years for Sony in their digital imaging group. Sony North America. I was one of the managers. So when I left Sony, I thought I was retired. And you know, when you're retired, what you don't need is all the stuff that you needed when you worked. So I sold off through KEH a lot of my camera gear. I had 2 1/4 system, had 5x7, I had a lot of 35mm, I had a lot of digital. And you know, I'm retired, so I don't need all this stuff. So I was retired for a couple of years, and I was like, I did all the retired things that you could do, and I just thought, well, there's got to be more to this. So I thought, I need a hobby, and I thought, well, I know a great hobby. I know a hobby I've loved all my life, photography. So I started to get back into photography just for the love of photography, the joy of photography. And this YouTube channel is really just an extension of that joy of photography that I have. Like, don't I look joyful? Anyways, I have never had as much fun in photography. Even the years I shot shooting NFL and going to all the big games, and you know, Major League Baseball and going to all the big games, and like, I've worked over 1,000 NHL games. I've done a lot of sports, but nothing has been as much fun as the last couple of years doing this YouTube channel and just shooting for my own enjoyment. Now, where does that put us? I had a 2 1/4, and when I retired, I sold it off. It was a Pentax 645. But over the years, I've used a lot of different 2 1/4s, and I've used Hasselblad when I shot NBA. That was all shot on a motorized Hasselblad for the remote work. Anyway, so I was familiar with the system. Now, if I was starting a new system, if I didn't have any lenses, no matter 35mm or 2 1/4, whatever, my first lens would be a macro. If you're 35mm, maybe you should get a 50 macro. Maybe you should get a Nikon, it would be a 105 macro. I think Canon's was a 100 macro. So the first lens, I think the most useful, most fun lens you could start with is a macro. Now, macro lenses are weird. Originally, way back when photography and film photography was a thing, before digital, macro lenses were quite popular because a lot of the industry was copying things out of books for teachers. If you worked at a university as an instructor, maybe you taught physics, you would send books down to the AV department and say, I need a picture of this graph, I need a picture of this machine, I need a picture of this doctor, whatever it is. And they would copy that on the slides, and then a couple of days later, the slides would show up on your desk. So this AV department did a lot of copying. There was no digital files of this stuff yet. It was all slides for a slideshow that the instructor would do. And the AV department looked after it. And they used macro lenses, and macro lenses were special because they would focus on a flat plane. So they would focus corner to corner, edge to edge on a piece of paper. That's what they were designed for, to make copies of paper. Now, you could also do leaves, you could also do flowers, you could also do bugs, but they were designed to be flat field so that the paper, the page was sharp corner to corner. So they're a little bit of a different optical design, for one thing, but they're a great, useful first lens. So again, if I was starting with 35mm, I'd get a 50 macro. It's probably a 2.8. That's fine. You'd be able to do a lot of fun with that. 105 would be great, or 100, whatever your kind of brand is. One of those would work great. I know Nikon made a 200 macro. That was pretty specialized. That would be useful, but I've never actually used one. I don't know. So I've got a 2 1/4 camera. It's a Rollei Tele. It has a built-on 135 f4 lens. It's wonderful for portraits. I use it for portraits. My whole rodeo cowboy series that I've been working on for a couple of years, I go to these rodeos and I photograph cowboys like bull riders and bucking bronc riders and things like that, people like that. Anyways, it's perfect on the Rollei. But the Rollei has limitations. It doesn't have interchangeable backs, doesn't have interchangeable lenses, a little bit slow to reload, things like that. If you were using film backs, you could have 3 or 4 reloaded and ready to go when the cowboy falls off his horse. You're not fooling around wasting time loading your camera. So I've decided to switch back to Hasselblad. I've still got the Rollei, but I've decided to switch back to Hasselblad. And I own one lens. I don't have a camera yet. I'm going to buy a camera in the next few weeks. I have the Hasselblad 120 macro. This is a great place to start. If you're going to do 120 and you're going to go Hasselblad, it's this lens. It's the 120 macro. But if you're doing 35 mil, maybe just keep the 50, or as I said, the other ones. Now, this lens doesn't do 1-to-1. Most macro lenses will do 1-to-1. So that means that the subject is the same size as the film. So think a full frame, the closest you could get with a macro lens on 35 mil, if it's 1-to-1, is about the size of a quarter. So your subject, you could photograph a quarter and have it full frame in the viewfinder with most macro lenses. That's what 1-to-1 is in 35 mil. The Hasselblad lens is not quite a 1-to-1. It will take a picture probably of a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I mean it's square, but you know, that's sort of the closest you could get would be a piece of paper. I haven't tried it yet because I don't have a camera, but I'll probably need extension tubes. Now, extension tubes are non-optical tubes that go between the lens back and the camera, and they just extend this distance. And so by extending that distance, it extends your ability to close focus. It ruins your ability to focus at infinity. You can no longer focus at infinity if you've got extension tubes in. Now, if I was doing 35 mil and I could live with this 1-to-1, so that's, I'm taking pictures of things the size of a quarter, like snails or small flowers. If I could live with that, I don't need an extension tube. But if I need to get closer than the size of a quarter, then for 35 mil, I would also need extension tubes. There's no optical glass. It's just a tube that lengthens this distance. Now with the Hasselblad, there's a few different ones. I'll have to figure out which one to get. I'll probably need an extension tube to get the closeness I want of some of the subjects I want to shoot. Now, what am I going to shoot? Well, I'm going to shoot some landscape. I'm probably going to do some portraits. I'm excited about this. This is a great thing. I'm so excited. I'm having fun with photography. Are you having fun with photography? Has it become a chore? I'm living the dream. I just love it. I go out and I shoot black and white pictures. I print them in my darkroom. I've never had so much fun for photography. What a great hobby. It was an okay career, but it's a great hobby. Anyways, I'm starting off with a macro lens. I'll have to get a Hasselblad down the road. Now, this Hasselblad has a weird filter mount, and I'm big on the filters. So this is called a B60, so it's 60 millimeters, but it's a bayonet. And the filters for the B60 are a little bit hard to find. You go to eBay, there's not going to be a lot of them. So I happen to find in my filter drawer an adapter that adapts the B60 to, I don't know what it is, 67, I think. 67. So now I can use this filter and I can put on, here's a yellow filter, one of my favorites. I also have an orange in this 67 filter size. So a filter that I already had is now recommissioned to work with this adapter on my Hasselblad lens. And most of the Hasselblad lenses, the current, well, none of them are current. The last generation were basically the B60. So I'll be able to use this adapter and these filters, and I'll be able to do all that filter stuff I love to do. But you know what else you can do? So I can do landscapes, I can do portraits, but you know what I can do with the macro lens? On a rainy day, like I live in Canada, well, it doesn't rain that much, but we get snowy, ugly days when you don't want to go outside, let's be honest. This is great for photographing peppers. You saw my peppers the other day. Maybe I'll expand into garlic or cabbage. Who knows? Could go anywhere with it. Maybe flowers. Maybe a beautiful picture of a fern. Maybe I'll go out and take a picture of a building with my new Hasselblad macro lens. I'm excited. This is going to be so much fun. This is going to be the greatest journey of my photographic hobby. If a hobby can be a journey, I guess it can. Let's see where it goes. Let's have fun. It's just for the joy, the love of photography. Let's have fun. Let's see where we go. Got a new macro lens. Can't wait to get that camera body. I started with the macro lens in my mind. Well, I've actually written it down, but in my mind, I have the whole system laid out. Every piece I need. Now I can start to search for some of these obscure things because I don't need everything. I don't need a 150. There's some lenses I need. I know exactly what I want. I'm going to go and, I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste money. I've already got the system built in my mind. I just have to go get it piece by piece, just like this crazy bayonet to 67 filter size. We're going to make everything work. It's going to be so much fun. Come along on the journey and get yourself a macro lens. That's a great place to start if you need to start.